Uncreative Conversations. Welcome.
Thank you, Rosie. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I hope that you're going to find it interesting.
I'm sure I will. Can you share a bit about yourself, Frank?
Sure. Well, my name's Frank Peacock and I live here in Inverness. I'm married to Caroline and we have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. I've lived here and we've been married actually for almost 50 years, which seems like quite a long time. Church-wise, I'm a member of King's Fellowship in Inverness. In fact, I'm one of the founder members of the church there, so I've been there for quite a long time. And I'm also part of the Blue Flame core team. And Blue Flame are a bunch of very creative people who are trying to serve the Lord in creative ways. And it's great being part of that team.
Awesome. And what did you want to chat about today?
Well, I thought we would chat about something that's close to my heart, which is an event called Tabernacle.
Okay. Now, when I hear the word tabernacle, I think of the tabernacle of Moses in the Bible. So can you kind of make the link for us?
Surely. Okay, so let me go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about tabernacle. I would say that I am not what you would say an artistic person. I don't paint or I don't play a musical instrument. But I would say that I was creative. I mean, I always have said that, but I would certainly say that now.
Good.
But I do like to study the Bible, and I'm interested in theology and that sort of thing. So what happened is a number of years ago, the leader of Blue Flame and member of the Streams, Charity Bowman Webb, was invited by King's to do a little mini-series of 4 weeks on the subject of the tabernacle. Now, I knew that this was going to be an event because it was associated with Blue Flame that would have some creativity in it. But I was mostly interested in learning about the tabernacle from a biblical point of view. So I immediately signed up for the 4 weeks. So we turned up in week 1, and the meeting was split into 2 sort of parts. First of all, Charity was speaking and explaining about the tabernacle and explaining about how it came about and the furniture that was in it and the work of the artisans who put it all together and brought out this creativity side of it. So she talked about that for a little while, and then the meeting split into the second part, which was a chance then for people to use their creativity. So there were people there who were artists, there were musicians, there were singers, some dancers, people who worked with fabrics, and poets, writers. So it was quite a group. For myself personally, at that point in time, I decided that I would just sit on the couch at the side and watch how this all unfolded, and it was very interesting. It was a little bit like sitting in a meeting and maybe sitting on the outside looking in through a window at these creative people doing their thing. And it was very enjoyable, but I wasn't part of it. I was sat on the outside, if you like. So that was week 1 of the...
Do you remember me being there, Frank? I think I was at that week 1. I didn't live in Inverness at the time.
Right.
I lived maybe an hour away, but I'm pretty sure I was there. But so...
Could well have been. There was a lot of creative people there, so I'm sure you were there, Rosie. But the interesting part for me came in the second meeting. So we went through the same format. Charity spoke for a little while, and I had taken my iPad along and I was taking down some notes of what she was saying. Came to the end of the teaching session and we went into this sort of worship type letting the creative people do their thing. And I took my seat on the couch. But while I was sitting there, God began to speak to me and said something along the lines of, why are you sitting on the outside? I really want you on the inside.
Oh,
and what came to my mind then was the tabernacle. And the tabernacle was set up. It had an outer perimeter fence around it, if you like, which was, say, about the size of a football field. And then the actual tabernacle tent was inside of that, and there was the sacrifice altar and stuff like that. So it was like I was, again, sitting on this couch. I was actually on the outside looking in, and God was saying to me, I want you to come in. And I felt like as though I was there. I felt like I was out in the desert. I'd never actually seen a tabernacle, obviously, and I'd never actually seen a desert either, come to think of it. But it just felt like I was there, and I could sort of feel the heat and the sounds and the smells that would have been around there. And over all of that, I could feel God saying to me, I want you to come in and be part of this. And so I'm sitting there and I'm trying to write all this stuff down of how I was feeling and what God was saying. And he said to me, get up and come in. And so I got up out of my seat and I moved in to be with some of the creative people. And I do remember that the musicians were playing not any particular song, they were just playing music. And singers were singing just as the Spirit led them. Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. And I started to move around. I wouldn't say it was dancing, but it certainly was movement.
Yeah.
And it just gave me this great feeling of freedom in my worship and a great feeling of peace. And I just felt like as though I was able to express my worship to God in quite an amazing way, and certainly something that I had never experienced before. And so that was the start of Tabernacle for me.
Wow.
And it was a very exciting experience.
I remember being there and I just felt like I wanted to do everything, so yes. I remember being there. I had a piece of paper in front of me, I had pens, and I was drawing. I was singing with my mouth and my legs were moving. I remember, and I kind of had this experience of, it was like I had travelled into God's heart, kind of,
Yeah.
And it was just filled with colour. It was just filled with colour, and to me, I felt God was saying to me, in my heart, I love all these expressions, and it was represented in colour. And I looked up, and there was somebody at the front painting, and they had painted. I felt like they were painting what I was seeing, right. And it was just all these colours, and I'm not sure what the painting was meant to be or what their experience was, but for me, I felt they were painting God's heart.
Yeah.
So you were saying that was
that's very typical of Tabernacle and the kind of experience that people have who come along.
Yeah.
And you see, the interesting thing about that is that you don't have to be an artist. Mm-hmm. You can be part of what someone else is doing, the art, and you are part of that. It's a personal experience for you, but you're also part of the whole. And I think that's a big part of Tabernacle. And for me, as someone who wasn't artistic, it certainly gave me an insight into being able to be part of someone else who is artistic and just enjoying that and being able to express my feelings for God in that same situation.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of, so I grew up in a very liturgical church, so you go in and you've got incense and icons, and it's a lot of kind of call or response. And although Tabernacle is different in some ways, with dancing and fabrics and paint and instrument and sound, it is to me also kind of a liturgy, because I really feel like we are on a journey together. Quite often, someone might say a poem and we all collectively respond to that together, and someone might stop and say we feel God is, you know, going this way or that way, you know, and just hearing God's voice, and it's spontaneous. It's like a spontaneous liturgy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't go there by yourself. You go there with the group, and it's collective, and it's not just an individual thing. It's for the whole group. But yet you yourself are experiencing something at a very personal level between you and God as you hear him there. Because the tabernacle, of course, was the meeting place for the children of Israel. That's where God came and went with them in that tent there. And so it becomes a meeting place for us, for God. And whether you feel like you're artistic or not, you can still meet with God there.
So would you give any advice? Say somebody was organising a gathering that didn't feel like they were artistic, or perhaps somebody who was going to a gathering like this and felt like they weren't artistic. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, I think when you go to a tabernacle type event, you have to be very open. And kind of lay behind you any preconceived ideas that you might have of what God might do on any particular occasion, because I can guarantee you he won't do what you think is going to happen. And so you have to be open to that and be ready for it, and lay your heart open and just say, God, you need to speak to me in these circumstances, and just go with the flow of it, and experience God's Spirit as he leads you forward within the tabernacle. But if I can just go back a little bit, as I said, this first experience for me was in a series of 4 teachings, if you like, that Charity was carrying out. After that was over, we then subsequently started up what I would call a tabernacle event, rather than a set of 4 teachings. And this turned out to be, and has been for the last 5 years, has been an annual event. Started off in the local church in Kings, who opened up the doors and let us hold this event. And again, this gave us the opportunity over a weekend to spend more time, because the teaching nights were quite short, obviously, because it was an evening. So the weekend events really gave us a chance to open up and to explore what God had for each person individually and for us collectively. There then developed out of that, with each one there was a kind of a theme came out, and so we would say one year the theme was voice, what is God saying. Another time it was about the table and God's provision for us, that kind of thing. And of course, over the years, this has grown. We've had some amazing teachers come. Charity, of course, is a great teacher. We've had Bonnie Chavda. We've had Ken. Forgot his name now. Ken Fish. Ray Hughes. John Thomas. And we've had some amazing musicians. I mean, apart from, we have some amazing musicians in Inverness anyway, but we've had a group called Epiphany came who are just amazing. They play this prophetic music, and it's just a whole different experience. So all of this together has made up what Tabernacle has been for me, and it's grown over the years. We've had people coming from, I think now it's probably at least 12 different countries, from the UK, from Ireland, from Europe, from the USA, South Africa, far afield is Hong Kong, and made some wonderful friends in amongst that. And it's just been a great experience of God touching lives in all these different countries and bringing us all together to worship and praise Him in a very open and free way.
And what's great as well is that as much as we have these gatherings, once a year, we've had, a few of them, is that it's become something that kind of has exploded in different even parts of the world. It's not just kind of limited to one weekend once a year. We can tabernacle you know,
Yes.
any time, you know, it's just gathering together.
That's right.
Yeah.
And of course the word is now that Charity teaches a course called Limitless, which I highly recommend to people to go on. But almost every time she teaches Limitless, a tabernacle breaks out at the end of it, and people get involved, and they just have this freedom to be able to express themselves in worship and in all sorts of other ways. So,
great. Thank you so much, Frank, for coming on. It's great to have you, and maybe you can come back another time and we can chat some more.
It's a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, Rosie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.